The Blood of Dawnwalker is an upcoming RPG by the studio Rebel Wolves. Now, Rebel Wolves is a particularly interesting studio because it was founded by the director of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, amongst a bunch of other former developers of The Witcher 3 and some pretty interesting game developers. So they've come together to produce this really interesting looking game, and today I just wanted to share some information about this gothic, vampiric, European, semi-historical fantasy game. It's fiction, but it's an interesting game set in, I suppose, our world as opposed to a fantasy world. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss everything we know so far about the Blood of Dawnwalker. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a general overview of what this game is about, and I'm going to be taking this directly from the Bandai Namco website because I think it gives a pretty good description of just what this game is actually about. So Rebel Wolves is a studio co-founded by Konrad Tomaszkiewicz, the director of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And the game is set in an alternative 14th century where feudal lords have been overthrown by a clique of powerful vampires. In this narrative sandbox, players will forge their own story about saving their family or taking whatever path their choices lead them down. The Blood of Dawnwalker is developed by Rebel Wolves in Unreal Engine 5 and published by Bandai Namco for PlayStation 5, Xbox X and S, and PC. 14th century Europe. Bloody conflicts sweep the lands and the Black Death comes for the survivors. In the wake of the disasters claiming thousands of lives, the decimated human population struggles for survival. It's a moment of weakness. In Vale Sangora, somewhere in a forgotten corner of the Carpathian Mountains, vampires seize their opportunity to walk out of the shadows, overthrow the feudal lords, and claim what they've been denied for centuries. Freedom and ultimate power that comes with it. Legends turn into reality, and history as we know it will never be the same. The Blood of Dawnwalker is the first chapter of the Rebel Wolves' original dark fantasy saga. You play as Cohen, a young man turned into a Dawnwalker, forever treading the line between the world of day and the realm of night. Not fully human, not entirely a vampire, you have 30 days and nights to save your family or swear revenge on your sire and destroy everyone standing in your way. Inspired by classic RPGs, we want players to feel the sense of urgency in an open world game. There are multiple approaches to saving Cohen's family with no clear division between main and side quests. You decide on how you want to spend the time, explains Konrad, game director and co-founder of Rebel Wolves. Time is a resource, with each quest progressing its passage. It is possible to complete all stories and arcs before the dreadful deadline, making each playthrough unique. We call it a narrative sandbox. The freedom in gameplay is reflected in Cohen's very nature as a Dawnwalker. Depending on the time of day, players will have different skills, abilities, and storyline outcomes. Players must choose: do they fight for humanity or embrace the cursed powers? So the first interesting point I want to draw attention from this description is the fact that the game is going to be set in the Carpathian Mountains, which is an area of Eastern Europe, which also includes some parts of southern Poland and Romania, and particularly Transylvania, so it could be in any of these locations. I would imagine possibly Poland based on the game developers, but maybe it encapsulates a couple of these regions. And also interestingly, I think it's very important to pay attention to the fact that Cohen is, I assume, not a full vampire. He is a Dawnwalker, which I imagine is a cross between a vampire and a human, maybe like a kind of half vampire thing. If you guys have ever read the Darren Shan novels, which I really liked when I was younger, I would recommend having a look at that and seeing what a half vampire is, and I imagine it could be something along those lines. Essentially, you don't have the full powers of a vampire, you have some of them, and instead of having your aging completely cease, it just goes at a very, very slow rate. So it could be that he's not a full vampire and you can go down that route as you play the game, and it could be that you decide to instead walk away from that path and go towards being more of a human. So next, if you go to this website, you can see that there are a lot of great wallpapers and screenshots and concept art of the game, which just really show this kind of gothic European style set with this amazing kind of atmosphere at nighttime and also in the day. It really reminds me of some of the areas in Velen in The Witcher 3, but then it has this kind of combination of, I suppose, different sort of architecture from what we are typically seeing in The Witcher 3, and it, obviously, as we can see, it looks more real. It looks more like actual Europe, and it is really interesting, and I think this setting is going to be amazing. It reminds me of Van Helsing. If you guys have ever seen that movie, I loved that movie when I was younger. The whole thing looks like it was just plucked from there, and you get a game in it, which it looks really great. I love this kind of setting. I'm looking forward to having a go. In regard to the gameplay, not much is known yet. You can look at these clips on screen and see exactly how we're going to be fighting. It looks quite interesting and fluid, but I think one thing that's quite interesting that I haven't seen a lot of discussion about is the fact that we're not just going to be fighting humans, we're going to also be fighting monsters that are in the game. And these monsters have not really been discussed in that much detail, but there's going to be other fantasy elements past there just being vampires in this world, and I think that's important to pay attention to. And just if you look at the vampires in general, you can see that it's incredibly similar to what was done in Blood and Wine with Detlef and Regis, the kind of smoke and the way they appear in and out of it, and the way they turn into it and then suddenly attack people, and they're obviously incredibly powerful. But another interesting thing I noticed is you can see it multiple times. For example, one of the characters, Ambros, he turns his hand into this kind of blood-looking blade. You can see Xanthi, she also uses blood to trap someone and then physically make somebody explode. So vampires don't just drink blood, they have an affinity to control it with some sort of magic as well, which is quite interesting and quite unique. So, onto the characters. We know a fair amount about the main characters so far, mainly because of a lot of Twitter posts basically explaining who each of the characters are. So I'm going to read these posts just so you guys know just generally who these characters are. So, the main character, Cohen. Born to a peasant family as the oldest of 4 siblings, Cohen's childhood was not easy. He started working in the silver mines alongside his father when he was still a kid. As an intelligent and curious child, he dreamt of adventure and travelling out of the valley, away from his chores and family obligations. He never did. He knows his family needs him to survive, and he cannot abandon them. Gaining vampiric powers turns his life upside down and terrifies him, but it also gives him the means to become free from the constraints and duties placed upon him. So, Cohen's the main character. I love the name Cohen for reasons related to The Witcher as well, and I think it's a great name. Character looks really interesting, love the design, can't wait to play as him. Next we have Brentius. Born in the Roman Empire under the name Caesar Burianus Laurentius, AD 131, to a noble family who owned massive latifundia, which is an estate, Brentius was destined for greatness. He joined the rank of senators and quickly rose to the top of Roman officialdom, with ambitions to become the next consul. He was on the right track to make it happen, if only he was not turned into a vampire. In the blink of an eye, he fell from the very top of the social ladder to his very bottom, but his hunger for power remained. So, a pretty interesting character. It's nice that a lot of these characters are plucked out of these different eras of history because it really grounds it in the actual world, but it gives us this sort of idea that vampires are present across borders and they're present throughout all of history, so it's a great idea. Next we have Bakir. Some men just want to see the world burn, and Bakir is one of them. As a human, he spent decades galloping across the dry steppes of Central Asia, burning, trampling, and pillaging as he went. He thirsted for blood even before he was turned. For centuries, he hid in the shadows and resented it. Bakir likes being the center of attention. He wants people to know his name and tremble as they hear it. So he's going to be the kind of evil guy, basically, or just the very over-the-top murderous guy. Next, we have Ambros. It is only recently that Ambros had been turned, and so he's got something to prove. Ambitious and thrilled with his newly acquired powers, there's nothing he'll shy away from, no red line he won't cross. His gleaming armour and perfectly coiffed hair make Ambros look like a nobleman, but his origins couldn't be humbler. His life as a human was hard, full of pain and humiliations. Now he's more than ready to settle the score with the world and all who spurned him. So he has a sort of inferiority complex, and he's decided he wants to look like a noble and kill a bunch of people because he wants to get back in the world, so great character. And next we have Xanthe. Xanthe is older than seems possible. She was a priestess once on a remote Greek island, the name of which she has since forgotten. Her body bears witness to the ravages of time, as does her mind, hearing voices from beyond the pale, muttering under her breath. At first glance, she might seem insane. The truth couldn't be more different. She understands the nature of the world better than anyone, and deep down, she's terrified. So to me it seems that the older the vampire, the more sort of demonic they look, because if you look at the recently turned vampires, they look more human, right? And you look at someone like Xanthe, she seems far more degenerated. And one thing I thought I should add is there will be a gameplay reveal in the summer of 2025. So, look forward to that. We're going to see more gameplay, although the gameplay so far does look pretty interesting. And I would say, just to conclude, I'm very excited for this game. I love the fact it was made by the actual developers of The Witcher 3, not the company, but the physical developers. And I think it's a really important thing to consider, because these people were able to have a vision of The Witcher 3 and all these things we love about that game, and they were the ones that actually made it. The company is more of a kind of name than anything else. The actual people that made it are now, a lot of them are working at this studio and a lot of them are working towards this game, and it's a fantasy game which gels with a lot of my interests as well, so I'm looking forward to playing it. I really hope that this game is going to be great. It looks really interesting so far. I love the structure of the trailer. It's not just some sort of random little reveal of like a few things and that's all you get. We saw a bit of gameplay. We saw the in-game engine, for example. We had a structured story to the trailer that showed a lot of the main characters we're going to be introduced to, and it gives you a really good idea of what direction they're going with. So I think this was a great reveal. I really look forward to hearing more, and I hope you guys are excited as well. I really want to play this game. I can't wait. I think it would be one of those games that, as with the different playthroughs you can do, it'll be something that I'd love to play at Halloween or somewhere around that time, or in the winter, you know. It's a great looking game, but to be honest, even the summer is a pretty good time for horror at the moment, so I'm really looking forward to it. It looks amazing. Can't wait to play it. What do you guys think about it? Are you excited to play this game? I'm sure a lot of you will be, but is there any reservations you have? Is there anything you hope the game includes? Is there anything you're looking forward to seeing from this studio in the future? Because, well, it could be an incredible studio as it produces more and more games, and I can't wait to see that as well. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more videos like this, want to support this channel, please subscribe and like today's video. Really appreciate that, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Good luck on your adventures, everyone.